This is The Stuff Dreams Are Made Of. I'm writer-collector Ryan Condal.
And I'm writer-collector Dave Mandel, and you're listening to the original movie prop collecting podcast. Possibly brought to you by Heritage. I don't know. They haven't really been responding, so we're just like a ghost ship, just assuming they're our sponsor, just heading for ports unknown, not really 100% sure what's happening.
If I've learned anything from working in this business for near 20 years, Dave, it's that when people don't return your calls, it's usually a good sign.
It usually means they've decided to go all in on streaming. But anyway, so we'll maybe. So
Isn't
maybe
it streaming?
Right, I guess so. But maybe go to ha.com and maybe check out all their different auctions and maybe get something there. Maybe, I don't know. That's our
You could.
possible. You could. I mean, if you don't have anything better to do, it's not.
We're not telling you not to.
Maybe, yeah. But we're also, I want to be really clear, we're not telling you 100% to do it either. So, that's up to you.
Right.
Maybe. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
Hi, Dave. Very good. How are you?
Are you getting ready for your big trip?
I am. By the time this airs, I'll be back for 17 weeks.
It is a brief trip. Yes, it is also a brief trip. Yeah.
But yes, I'm coming to LA this week for work. I'm doing a little press at the beginning of shilling for award season, but we're doing a little press at the Television Academy. There's a screening in LA and some press around that. So I just I was putting a couple days out in front of the event so that I could do some stuff in LA, some work stuff, and also some social stuff, including seeing Bart and the great David Mandel. And we'll be actually seeing each other all together in a surprise sort of appearance at Prop Store, which you'll now have seen already by the time this airs, covering the March
and also,
auction.
Ryan, how did the screening go? How did the House of the Dragon screening go?
I think it went great. The projector went midway through, but people got the
crowd was into it though. The crowd was into it.
They were.
They asked some good questions.
They did. There was minimal torches and pitchforks and chanting. Most of that was kept outside, but no, it was dragons, fire,
nice.
People saying Shakespearean stuff. It's good.
Very cool. What more can you ask for? This is vaguely connected to your show, which is I'm really trying. I mean, honestly, I think this is a full house ban, I should say. Both not only from my wife, but also from me, which is just no more pop toys. Like the kids are not allowed to get any more pop toys.
Okay.
I don't want it. I have one pop toy basically, which is I have a Wrath of Khan.
Oh,
you
showed him. You showed him on the podcast. Yeah.
I have that one, and I have a Bizarro Superman one in my Bizarro collection.
Of course.
But other than that, and I guess I kept the Veep. I have like a set of the Veep ones.
Yeah.
We usually, but other than that, no pop toys. But I will say, I believe there is a show coming up, which is WonderCon, which is here in Anaheim in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, I like
WonderCon.
Takes place. That's the March one. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It always takes place on spring break, so I haven't actually been there in years because it sort of always overlaps with we're trying to get out of town or something like that. But I believe the exclusive this year, or one of the exclusives, is a Damon pop toy in his full armor kind of thing.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
And it is.
Okay.
I saw a picture of it, and it's really good looking. Yeah. So,
okay. I didn't even know that. That's cool.
Yeah, little House of the Dragon merch update. Really great looking. Like in a kind of I'm not buying it, but yeah, it was.
Do you
pretty
want
good.
one? Because I can probably.
I don't think I do. As much as I really do, don't give it to me. But but maybe get one and we'll give it to someone on the show or something like that.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's really good looking. Yeah,
I'm putting in the request. Bart, remind me. I will.
Show exclusive. So I don't know what
that's
that
very
means.
Cool.
So very, very neat. What's new in props, my friend? You have a little something?
There's a funny story from season 1. We did Comic-Con in season 1, I think, as the show was airing, I believe, if I'm correct, and or right, I know, because we aired in August, so it was right before the show premiered. So there was buzz and whatever, but nobody had actually seen it and was wondering what this was. And they had released a bunch of the pop toys right before the show went. But at Comic-Con there was an exclusive of Alicent
okay.
with holding the dagger when she's charging Rhaenyra from that great episode in the first season. And at some point, HBO was, I don't know, they were on the floor, they got alerted to whatever, but that like Olivia was like waiting in line at the Funko Pop because she had no idea how any of this stuff worked, but she was waiting in line.
So she just got in line so she could buy one.
I would like my
very
first
much
action
like that.
figure.
Yeah.
And they like came over to her, and I think it was I think the story goes that the pop people sort of got word that like Olivia Cook was standing in line waiting for her own pop, and they came over and
adorable.
they're like,
Yeah.
I think we can work this out. She didn't want to make a fuss and pull celebrity cards and all that. So, but she did get her likeness. There were two made of her. There was one, the sort of prim and proper composed Alicent, and then the crazed one with the knife, which I really enjoyed. Because if you've ever met Olivia, like the least Olivia thing is to be charging at somebody with a knife. I think everybody has a little piece of their character within them that they sort of bring out, but that I would say that's the very least quality that is I would associate with Olivia. But that was a nice, just fun story from those early days of the show.
And now she couldn't walk on the floor without being like torn apart. Yeah.
Completely, yeah.
Yeah.
She, unfortunately for her, because she's one of, I mean, other than Matt, she's probably the most famous face on the show from pre-existing.
Very, very recognizable. And,
correct.
You know, just her eyes and stuff. You just go, oh, there she is. Yeah.
Has a very, famous face. And she's one of the few people on our show that doesn't hide behind a wig. So even Matt has some degree of anonymity because people aren't seeing the
they're kind of thrown by the lack of the white hair. Yes.
Right. But Olivia's hair is famous. I mean, that is her hair. That's her so she just can be identified from any which angle. And I think her anonymity has probably waned in the years since 2022. But that was my Funko Pop story.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Do you have one of those? Do you have the charging? I don't
actually.
Have you been getting like, I guess here's my question. Have you been getting, and I'm not even getting into like, do they send you one of everything? Like how much House of the Dragon like merch have you accumulated just for the heck of it? You know,
they
whether
send
it's
some
on your
things,
desk or stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they send some things. I did get that first series of Pop that they released, like there were like 5 characters in Cyrax, Rhaenyra's dragon. So I did get those, and I think they actually sent them to me. And there was a great Viserys one in there, which I really liked. But I have not kept up with it, and I know Aemond and Aegon are out there, and there's like sort of zombie Viserys, the rotting Viserys is out there, but I have not seen those. And the thing that I do keep up with is the making of book, because I got not hands on in the making of it, but I really did a lot of work to facilitate, to make sure that Gina McIntyre, the author, we should actually have her on at some point.
Oh yeah, that'd be fantastic. And she's written these other books too.
Yeah, she's written other books. Yeah, and the original series too. So we should have her on because she's got probably incredible stories from doing all those, because she gets really deep, on the ground access doing all that. But I love that format of book, so I just wanted to make sure our book was as true to form, telling the real story as possible. So I made sure that Gina got access to everything that she wanted to. So I have I always ask them to send me a bunch of those when those books come out. But other than that, other things sometimes they send me something. Sometimes I just see it and I'll just buy it because I'm like, oh, that's cool. I actually don't know. There's just like the Damon WonderCon exclusive. There's probably a bunch of stuff out there that I'm not aware of. Yeah.
With there wasn't particularly, as you can imagine. I mean, I guess there were some shirts and things. There was not exactly a lot of Veep merch. They did a set of Pop toys. That seems about
cool.
right.
That's fine.
Yeah, no, it was super cool and it was fun. The thing we did, which I'll just tell you if it's something down the line, is at some point or another, had like, I don't know, forgive me, like probably like 6 sets of them, you know what I mean? Something like that, because it was 6 full sets of them. I think there was one variation or something, like it was like maybe there was like short and long hair Selena, maybe was the variation. Anyway, long story short, at some point or another, had the individual cast members sign their Pop toy boxes, and then as the years went by and we would be asked for to put something in an auction, or maybe when we were doing a political fundraiser or something, and there was an and then there would be a raffle connected to that, whatever, we would either go, here's an autographed poster, or here's an autographed set of pop toys, or something like that, so that we always kind of had like something neat to kind of give, whether it was a charity or, like I said, a fundraiser or something of that nature. So that's what we kind of did with ours. So and
That's
I
great.
kept
Yeah.
and I kept one set for myself. So
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Very,
It was fun.
very good. Very good. So, should we talk about props? From
You want to give a
pops to
clue?
props?
We got a clue real quick?
Yeah, let's
A
do a
clue?
clue.
Yeah.
So we're coming up at the end here to the contest.
Very,
the contest
very
is
near the end, yes.
going to end in the next episode. So this is a big one. I mean, that we've sort of teased. It's not this, it's that, and very general stuff, letting people sort of use their knowledge of what they know of me as a collector from the podcast. But this is a good one. This is actually
people. By the way, people need some help. We're not really getting.
Yeah.
So
And
we figured people need some help to get
workshop this a bit pre-show, but Dave came up with a good one. Okay, so this is before you get cold, and I would say extremely cold, like the coldest cold you can possibly get. You will take this off.
So maybe some kind of socks, or maybe who knows? Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want your feet sweating. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe who knows? But
be that as it may.
So send those guesses in to our email, which has a name.
dreamsaremadeofpodcast@gmail.com.
Nice.
You have a very good what's new in props this week. I have a brief what's new in props.
Please.
I've kind of gone all in on call sheets. I was, as we know from previous podcasts, I was gifted that lovely Princess Bride call sheet #1.
And we talked a lot about call sheets on the propas episode of
Yes.
small little props.
Yes.
Small little props. Yes.
And I think it's a combination of that, and then seeing the way former guest of the show, friend of the podcast, Glenn Carroll, who's a big call sheet collector, keeps his, which is he got one of those Itoya folders that's almost exactly the size of a whatever that is, A3, I think out here it would be, or a legal document. It's a little bigger than that. It's probably, I don't know, it's 9 by 12, maybe the Itoya folder. And he kind of does a label maker on the side to say what era it is or kinds of films or whatever, and then just keeps them in the little sleeves, and it's almost like a book at the end of the day. You can
very cool.
sit and flip through, and I just like that. I was like, okay,
So
now I understand.
he does not specifically display them with props, maybe from the movie. Oh, interesting. Okay.
No, he has it's like its own thing. And I was just really taken by the Princess Bride call sheet. And I mentioned a couple others that I have, but I just sort of said, okay, this is a very easy thing to collect. It doesn't take up a lot of space. They're usually not all that expensive. So I bought a bunch of call sheets, ones that were out there and sort of available. There were a couple on the Prop Store website. There was a couple on eBay that were interesting. I called one out to you.
Yes, there was someone on. Yeah, there was someone on eBay with like 7 or 8 RoboCop call sheets, and you bought one, and then I bought one in after you as well. And by the way, $50, I believe. I mean, so we're not talking about a large expense, and to get one, just really, really cool. What else can you say? Mine has what's his name getting arrested. I think Clarence Boddicker getting arrested.
Oh, nice.
I think the continuation of Murphy after he's RoboCop talking with what's her name. I mean, just like it's some cool scenes where you're just like, this is RoboCop. Really nice. Yeah.
Mine had, I forget what my scene actually was because I looked at a bunch of them, but mine was a Murphy scene. He was in it, called for the RoboCop suit. I was good with that. And I bought I actually bought another Aliens one that's better than the one that I had. It was the MedLab, one of the MedLab days, which I thought was really cool. It's hard to kind of tell what exactly it is because that was probably that was a bit of a to-do, that sequence, so they shot it over days, but it's the MedLab sequence. And I bought an Empire call sheet from Prop Store. Prop Store had a couple of Empire on the direct sale page for not terrible. I think they were up there for like 200 pounds or 250 pounds. So I grabbed one of those, and it's actually very cool because it's it seems like it's the end of the. I know that was a very long shooting schedule, but it's like day 120 something, so it feels like maybe that's the end of the schedule. I don't know. You might know off the top of your head how many days they shot.
I
but
don't.
What's cool about it is it's the end of the movie. It's Luke hanging from the weather vane.
Oh,
so
cool.
I thought that was really neat. It was just, Mark Hamill's the only actor on the call sheet. It specifically calls out the weather vane. I thought that was really neat, so I grabbed that one.
Oh, that's very, very cool.
Yeah.
Do you at this point have all 3 of the Star Warses?
No,
No.
That's my first Star Wars. I don't have
Gotcha.
I don't have Jedi or A New Hope. So
Okay, I was just curious.
I'm in need.
Well, like I said, I grabbed the RoboCop and was really quite thrilled. And I looked at that seller had some other ones. Interestingly enough, some interesting late 70s, early 80s television. Like there was some like Mork and Mindy and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did
which
see that.
I did stare at for a minute. I did not purchase, but I did stare at for a minute. But yeah, I thought that it was a cool bunch of stuff. And like I said, he's still got the other RoboCop ones up on eBay. I mean, this will be in a while. I assume they'll still be there. So yeah, but check it out.
Go take
yeah.
a look. There's also a ton of Sopranos up on eBay for anybody that cares. I mean,
Yes, I did notice that a lot of Sopranos. Yeah,
I was thinking about scanning them simply because I grew up within a rock throwing
right.
distance.
That maybe there's a location that you actually know or near your house.
Bada
or
bing.
Something. Yeah.
Bada Bing was
right near you.
Yeah. About
but you almost kind of want
you
want a parking lot Bada Bing. You don't want interior Bada
yes,
Bing.
interior.
As much.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. But they did use the exterior of it for the show because they would change the sign because it's called Satin Dolls. The actual strip club. It's called
the actual
Satin
real
Dolls.
one. Bada Bing is such a better name. I'm surprised
It is.
I'm surprised they can't just take the name. Like
they on the movie marquee outside, so they didn't change the name of the place, but on the movie marquee where it would say like what was playing or free drinks, whatever,
right.
It always says home of the Bada Bing. So it's said that for 20 years now. So they do exploit it. Yes.
I wonder if David Chase kept the neon Bada Bing sign or whatever. That'd be kind of a cool,
I hope so. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what he kept from that whole experience. We should have him on. I bet he's a big collector. I don't know. I highly doubt it. His favorite movie is The Godfather, though. So you guys could
really no. I had no idea. Would never have guessed that.
No.
Would have thought more of a Mork and Mindy kind of guy. But anyway, yeah. My what's new in props is sort of the ongoing saga, which we've spoken a little bit about. But and we kind of put the call out, and our listeners have been really great about emailing and even some Instagramming of how they catalog their collection. And I thought I'd do a quick little follow up on that because I'm still sort of deep in it, trying to sort of figure it out. And had a lot of great recommendations, did some digging on my own, obviously searches and whatnot, but also started checking out some of these various discussion boards that are for and by, people that work at and run museums. There are actual museum discussion boards. And by the way, people, I guess, especially some of you see a lot of smaller museums wrestling with the same issue. How do we catalog our stuff and asking people? And it's been a really interesting thing, and I've learned a couple of things, and I have not quite landed on a full answer yet. But one of the things that jumped out at me, and there are, again, numerous programs, and a lot of them, are sort of art collection based, but, you see them for wine. You see them also like home inventory programs as well. So there are variations of them. And a huge majority of them seem to be a piece of software that you are basically purchasing and accessing through the web, meaning you are going to a website, making an account, and putting your stuff basically up into their website in the cloud, basically. And it's something that I think is fine and good, but I think I've made the decision, and I don't know, again, I don't know where you feel on this, Ryan, but for me, I really am looking for something where the data lives on my computer, meaning I don't want to I don't want everything existing only up in someone else's piece of software where, yes, I can print out a report, I can, make some sort of a PDF, but ultimately the master file, for lack of a better word, is not on my home computer. I don't know. A little of it is security. A little of it is also the idea that one day you go to one of these websites and they're just like, nope, we're out of business now. I mean, again,
Right.
it conceptually bothers me to not be, I guess, in control of my own data. And again, this is not based on any one of these programs having had any specific issue. I'm just talking conceptually. With that in mind, I kind of ended up checking out and unfortunately, I guess, dismissing a huge chunk of these different sort of software options just because they are someone else's program. And ultimately kind of came around to two different pieces of software, one called My Art Collection, another one called Stuff, which are basically you are downloading the piece of software onto your own computer and your files exist on your own computer. And what's interesting about both of them is they're incredibly similar. And I think there are other programs maybe for things like wine and stuff or camera equipment that are similar, which is to say they're built on top of a database. And everybody seems to be using FileMaker Pro, which is like, I think it was made originally by Apple under their name Claris, which is an Apple company. And it's the sort of standard Macintosh database that has now, I think, expanded
I remember
into
FileMaker
PCs.
from like high school.
So FileMaker Pro is a 40-year industry standard that does not seem to be going anywhere. So I start with that.
So
it's a piece of software that's sort of built out of or built on top of the FileMaker Pro engine. And they're both really interesting pieces of software, and they will both, I think both pieces of software, if you talk to them and pay them, are willing to, what's the word I'm looking for, kind of make specific changes for you. But what they don't do is they're not particularly the kind of thing where if, you've got your stuff loaded up and all of a sudden you realize, oh, you know what, I also need a category for, I'm just making something up, like screen used or something like that. You certainly could put that in one of the categories that they have that exists. Like there might be a notes category and you could add screen used. And you would be able to search a database for the phrase screen used and it would show up in the notes. But you couldn't necessarily like check a box screen used because it doesn't, you know what I mean? You couldn't just add a new column, for lack of a better word, like if you were on an Excel spreadsheet and add a new column. So I guess where I am at in the search, which is, I don't know, maybe interesting or not, as the case may be, is to try and use one of these two programs and pay them some money to add the things I think I want. And then I guess one step beyond that is to talk to somebody who actually programs FileMaker Pro and maybe just make my own piece of software. Basically build my own sort of open piece of prop collecting software where there's the ability to kind of go, well, I also want to add this and I want to add that and I want to add, X, Y, and Z, where it's a little bit more, I guess, both personalized, but a little bit more control, which is not,
I don't think there's a huge market, but there's certainly, if you had the right thing, I mean, you could.
I don't even look at it as like, I'm not necessarily, I'm not looking to start a software company. But what I guess I was sort of curious about is, for example, if this was an endeavor that say cost overall, say $10,000, I'm just, I'm making this up. Are there 20 people out there willing to spend $500 each to get a copy of this thing?
I mean, I would say for sure. I mean,
specialized sort of thing. And I guess so that's kind of where I am. And I was curious what people sort of thought about it in general. And that's kind of where I am. It's a fascinating. I mean, software is it's a fascinating thing to start sort of digging into. And again, I understand why these companies are all like, no, you access us and you come up here. And that way you're paying and you're kind of constantly, I don't want to say at their mercy, but obviously you're paying a subscription for once a year and whatnot, which again is how a lot of software has gone. It just, like I said, it just at the core bothers me that a file isn't on my computer, that I'm at the mercy of something that could go away. And so that's kind of where I am, sort of a database version, whether it's professionally made or even simply made, is starting to seem like the best version of incorporating the text information we need, but also the sheer amount of photos to be able to go, here are 6 screen match photos. Here's a picture of its original listing in the auction catalog. Here's maybe an online link to the old original auction catalog because it's still up, or whatever, to kind of cover and be able to add these things when they show up. I mean, that's I guess the dream. So it is very much an all-in-one. So that, like, for example, I don't know, what did you get recently, Ryan, that everyone knows you got, like the con behind you from the Greg Jean auction. Obviously, you'd want to be able to kind of list what it was, the movie, the year. Maybe you want to get into who the director was. That's an optional choice. I've never listed my props by directors, but I've seen people do that. Like, they want to go, it's, whatever, it's Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan. It's a Nick Meyer movie. And then maybe the ability to go, here's all my props from a Nick Meyer movie. It's not something I've done, but I've now seen people doing that. So obviously you would have your sort of Star Trek, your main listing. But then you would want to be able to go, here's the PDF from the auction catalog. Maybe I think the Gene auction is still up in the Heritage system, so you could do a link to the individual listing up there, which you would still need to sign into, but you would have a link there. If there is a screen match, you would want to put in maybe the screen match photos and kind of either, whether it was something you made with the two things showing the matches, or maybe just put up the stills from the movie, knowing that those are the ones that match, and you would be able to, again, these are individual choices. If you ever lent it to a Star Trek exhibit, let's say someone said, hey, we were doing a big Star Trek exhibit at the Academy Museum, and let's say you lent it to them and maybe there was press on it, would you want to link to that or put the PDF? There's a lot of, there are bigger, deeper things where you start to maybe go, I want to be able to have something that where as things come up, I can add them. And I guess that's the the reason to try and
to movies.
build something where you can add things to it, as opposed to a kept system where, unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of add a column, I guess, is where I'm going with the entire thing.
Yeah, and that's why I ultimately, it is very rudimentary, but it's very detailed, at least in information. I keep a really detailed Excel spreadsheet. Right. That's numbered, itemized. What's the movie? What year did I acquire it? What do I acquire it for? What do I have the insurance value as now? But there's none of that. There's no photos. There's no.
But the beauty, or in a perfect world, if we do it right. And by the way, I think this is true of some of these other programs, so I don't want to say no one else does this. The beauty would be that a lot of these programs at least would take your master list and import them. Maybe there needs to be some cleanup, but assuming they have the same categories you do in their built-in system, or assuming it was a new program that had all of the categories you had, the beauty of being able to import an Excel list that already existed and then just be able to then add the graphics and links and other things that you've never been able to do. Because ultimately, what do you have, like in an end, one of your columns is a Dropbox link or something of that nature that takes you to a photo?
No, I have the Dropbox sort of separate, separate and above of all here's everything I own.
So I guess what I'm saying is, like, for example, with your con, you don't have the individual link to the con photo or the con folder as like the 8th column over, where each one has a link. You're just kind of going, everything in this list is in Dropbox.
This is more of my insurance list, I guess, in listing, my record listing, and then here's all the stuff.
Right. I've seen people, assuming in your master Dropbox, like, let's say each item has a folder, like, because you have multiple pictures. I've seen people grab the link for each Dropbox folder and do it on each individual item. I've seen them do it as the far column, so that if you were going down your columns and you got to Batman, you would go to the end and you'd be able to click on that link, and then it would take you right to the Batman photos. Exactly. So,
Understood.
just possibly a way of refining your master list. And again, it's a perfectly good thing. I just really want to be able to see photos at the same time, which is just something Excel does not do well, and a database, I think, does. So anyway, I'm intrigued by what other people are thinking, and I would love to hear more. And if people would be interested, if there was all of a sudden, again, a piece of software that we were kind of doing and just trying to cover costs or something of that nature. Because not trying to, looking to challenge Microsoft here. Just would like to build something that is really spot on, I guess, for lack of a better word. So yeah.
There's that great Simpsons when Homer starts the software company and he gets bought out by Microsoft, and Bill Gates, voiced by actual Bill Gates, like kicks in his door. He goes, "I'm here to buy you out, Homer." "Well, here we go, boys. Buy him out." And they just come in and they break all his shit. And it's like it's total mafia rule. Mafia, they smash his computer and take his hard drive. And Homer said, "I thought you were buying me out." And Bill Gates just goes, "I didn't get rich writing checks now, did I?" And then he's out the door. I always love that line. So. Yeah, there you go. So we're not threatening Microsoft. We don't need a visit from their Edisonian thugs.
Their goon squad. Yeah, exactly.
The goon squad. Yeah. Great. Well, yeah, really good, excellent research. Keep us posted. We can maybe it's late in the season. Maybe next season we'll run a little update as to where we are. But certainly keep me posted offline, because I'm in. I need. This is my sort of like, after this show, I need to get all my stuff into one location and then get it into a proper sort of museum catalog.
There's just no great. I mean, you want to do it for the sake of the pieces, but also there's just really no great way of doing the insurance without all this information. That's the larger issue.
Great. So tonight, we've had actually a ton of questions, comments, thumbs up, thumbs down, come in across all of the many channels where we interact with you fine folks, our listeners. And we just thought we were a little overdue for some audience interaction. So it's not
a little mailbag special.
It's not explicitly a mailbag special, but it is a.
It's explicitly a mailbag special.
It's a clip show. But it is an audience interaction.
It's a clip show of us reading old letters and
old letters. Just what
mailbag clip show. Yeah.
So we just thought we just scroll through a bunch of these, read them out online, name check some fans of the show, and then Dave and I would have a little discussion. This is a very good one. The first one, Dave, if you don't mind me jumping right in.
No, please do.
Robert Santo. It's SZANTO. Zonto. Robert Zonto. We'll take that. He said he's a longtime script seller. He just finished listening to our episode, It All Begins with Scripts, and it was almost therapeutic to hear someone both within the industry and a script collector talk about this tiny, beautiful world. I stumbled across this episode while doing completely unrelated research on Veep, which I loved. What research are you doing on Veep?
I'm very curious on what. Maybe he found some scripts or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
Very curious. Yeah.
And it's incredible to see such thoughtful
discussion. By the way, and scared. Like, what kind of research? But yeah.
Anyway. Where does that guy live?
Yeah.
Such thoughtful discussions about a really fun and important side of film history. If we ever consider doing another script-related show or segment, he'd be happy to learn out what he had some that I currently have, like a mimeoed pre-production Citizen Kane. That's amazing.
Yeah,
the same generation
really
that was
wonderful.
Put on sale at Heritage a few years back, or a strange, supposedly 1978 unpublished Star Wars novel manuscript about a planet-sized computer the Empire uses to spy on the galaxy, which is either the greatest piece of early fan fiction ever written or one of the great rip-offs Lucas ever ripped off with one of his writers. So
never heard
have you heard of that?
That's nothing I've ever heard of. Yeah, no.
There's also a zany autobiographical Spielberg script from 1980 called Reel to Reel, which is a whole genre of unproduced script collecting, which I do love. There was that like crazy Crusades script that Arnold was supposed to be in.
Oh, the Arnold, wasn't that going to be Verhoeven, right?
Yeah,
it was gonna be a follow-up to RoboCop, which
God.
sounded like it was going to be the most bloody, gruesome movie ever. Yeah. No, that's a great one. The again, unproduced ones. Was it the King Conan, the Milius script is
that
obviously out there.
That's around. I don't have a physical copy of that, but I've read it. Crown of Iron, which is just the fact that we were robbed of that movie, and that was
Yeah.
the thing the Wachowskis were supposed to do after The Matrix with Arnold right before he became the governor. They were trying to rush it to get it in before he went into office. That would have been the perfect way to round out that trilogy and fuck everybody that cost us that. I just think it's unforgivable.
So you're angry at the people of California for electing him? Is that who you're angry at?
No. I think he was a great governor. No. I'm at all the studio nonsense that went into that, like
they
hand
slowed
wringing
it
back
down.
in the day. Yeah.
I sent you relatively recently a John Borman script from before he did
Yes.
Excalibur, where he did a Lord of the Rings script that was really interesting.
Amazing.
But you at the same time can also feel the Excalibur-ness of it. It's a very Excalibur-like
zeitgeist.
take.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
exactly. And that was really, really interesting. So really, there's great stuff out there like that.
But I personally love this whole world. It's not something that I want to invest a lot of money in because I want that to go elsewhere. But in terms of having scanned copies and being able to read these things, I love reading a famous unproduced script. I love the idea of reading an Arnold Crusade script that was supposed to be made by Paul Verhoeven. I love the idea of reading Kubrick's Napoleon, whatever draft existed of that. There's another one that Robert mentions in his email. So thank you, Robert, for writing. It's an incredible thing you do. At some point, we should actually have a chat with you and figure out what, if this is a topic that we can revisit.
Yeah, it would be very, very fun. But also, Robert, more importantly, I am dying to find, and I think Ryan is as well, that crazy long first draft of Chinatown. Like, I don't even know if it's labeled draft 1, but it's apparently like 200 or so pages. It's the one where like Evelyn Mulwray is having some sort of a relationship with the police detective. I mean, it's like this giant behemoth, and it doesn't end. I don't think it even ends in Chinatown. It's a completely other thing from before they kind of got down to business with Polanski, and it's just this thing, and I am dying to read that. So that'd be a dream come true. So that's
guy,
high on my list. Yeah,
that guy Sam Wasson seemed to have had access to that. In his Making of Chinatown book. But I count me interested in also reading that if that's something that you have around. I would also love to see. He mentions a Seven Samurai script. I'd love to see what that looks like. I imagine it's
very
Japanese,
curious. Yeah,
but I would just love to see that and like, what does a Japanese script look like? What does a Japanese call sheet look like? Very interesting things.
It's a beautiful watercolor painting. It's not an actual script. Yeah.
And you're supposed to intuit what you need to bring to set that day and when you need to show up. I like
sort
that.
of Mount Fuji in the distance. Just beautiful, just beautiful and sort of timeless. Yeah.
And then Benjamin on Instagram wrote us. He said, "I want to give a big thank you to Ryan and you too, Dave, but mostly Ryan. I like that one because of your analysis / discussion on." Debt is coming. I became very interested in the first lot you discussed, Waymar Royce's Hero Sword, and despite my not huge budget, I was able to get it, presumably simply because it was early in the market, hadn't been tested. I watched most of the entire 3 days of the auction, what a slog, and was surprised at how much things were going for, especially at the end. And instead of just getting anything, which realistically my budget would have been minimal, I got a pretty special piece. So thank you for your insight. I love it. I told you I love that piece. I think it's really cool. It's from the beginning sequence. Waymar Royce, that was always a character name that I love that name. It like stuck in my head reading the book the first time because it's the first character that you meet. Great piece, Benjamin. I think you did really well there and good score. I'd love to see photos of that. So send it our way.
And I think super smart, like,
@gmail.com.
grabbing that early piece before everybody sort of figured it out, and they were probably obsessing on some of the other name pieces, and you kind of slipped in. Whereas had that piece been in the middle of day 2, I think the feeding frenzy would have been a very different thing.
So other frustrated collectors who weren't able to get things that maybe were higher on their list, so they're taking that as a consolation. But really smart, good for you for early adopting and jumping in on that. Dave, you want to?
Yeah, these next two kind of go together. These kind of come from Reddit, which I guess we have been, Bart has been dipping his toe into.
It's a very scary place, that Reddit.
Yeah. So these were sort of back to back. First was Astoria with 3 A's. Welcome to Reddit. Huge fan of the podcast. I started listening, watching as a big Game of Thrones and Seinfeld fan and a collector of stuff. It felt like worlds colliding. Thank you. That's a little Seinfeld reference. You actually motivated me to start my prop collection last year. While I can't participate in every auction due to financial reasons, I enjoy living vicariously through Dave and Ryan. Follow the community on the sidelines. Keep up the great work, which is very nice. And a shout out to Bart with those the hands. Not are those clappy hands, or are those like spirit hands?
Oh, is it doing this? I always thought it was
blessed.
like it was
oh,
showing
no, I
this.
thought it's like blessed or something.
Okay.
But anyway.
Okay. Either way, it's hands for Bart.
Hands for Bart. To which then Lurxis fan, Lerxt, Lurxt fan.
Is that a knockoff Lexus, I think?
Maybe? I don't know. Lurxt. I don't know. Lurks fan says, it's an okay podcast, though not very relatable to the average mortal. Ryan and Dave talk about dropping... now, of course, I'm losing a piece of the page. I got to find...
I'll continue for you.
Yeah,
$100,000 on this or that, as if they are discussing pocket change. Well, mostly Ryan tries to talk and Dave interrupts.
And then the Jedi Bugs, because this I have, then added, I second this. Sometimes it feels as they may as well be discussing their favorite yachts, which actually led me to realize we had not spoken about our favorite yachts. I mean, I know you were kidding, but I wanted to say that I am interested right now. I'm looking at a Silver Edge, 260 foot. It's 80 meters. It's a Silver Yachts. It will be built in 2028. It'll hold 18 guests, 8 cabin, and 17 crew. And they've got it for $75 million, but I think I can get it for $74 million. And I don't know. I'm really interested. I think this is the yacht that I have been looking for. So I wanted to thank you for that, Jedi Bugs. Ryan, how about you? Where are you in your yacht search?
What would you name your yacht, Dave?
That's interesting. I was thinking about Jedi Bugs as just a name, just to put it across the yacht. Although, because I mean, it is 260 feet long, so I've got some room for a name. I hadn't really thought about it, a name. I mean, I'd be very, you know what? I don't like a pun. I don't really want a pun, I think. But I don't know. I'll do some thinking on that. Did I ever tell you?
Mine is Private Deal. That's
I like
the name
that.
of mine.
Hashtag private deal or no hashtag?
I don't think hashtag. I think just Private Deal.
I like that.
Right?
I like that a lot. Did I ever tell you the wonderful story about Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker buying a racehorse? Did you ever hear this story?
No.
They bought a racehorse.
Is this after Airplane? It must
yes,
be.
this is after Airplane. This was told to me by David Zucker. They bought a racehorse and they named the horse It's a Little Pink or something like that. And they basically had the jockey, they wanted to have the jockey run it only on the inside. So they were hoping they would get the announcer to go, and it's a little pink on the inside. That's what this is what they spent their money on. And then apparently the horse went lame and it had to be put down. Wow. And then there's a rule that two horses can't have the same name, so they couldn't name it. They couldn't name a second horse It's a Little Pink. So then they got a second horse, and I think they named it like It's a Bit Pink or something like that. They changed it slightly, and I believe they achieved their goal of It's a Bit Pink on the inside, and on the inside it's a bit pink. I don't know. So
that is
so maybe there's
fantastic rich guy stuff going on there.
So there's a good there's some good yacht name. But
and
Ryan,
look, we look, Dave and I, in defense of us, we are aware that we collect on an echelon that not everybody can achieve, but we do talk about that, and this is a podcast first and foremost about us and the things that we collect and we're interested in collecting. So we're going to talk about that stuff. I mean, it's just the way it goes. We are not trying to make this the super yacht of props podcast, but we do a lot of work to really also, we did call sheets, we did scripts, we did the propas episode to talk about the more accessible things. So I understand.
And I was about to say also, when we go through the page by page auctions, especially, we are always calling out interesting things, low end props and whatnot, not to get very defensive. And I will also add that if you are looking for a yacht bargain, there is the Beauport, the SS Beauport out of Davy Yards. It's a 1960 ship, but it was renovated in 2023.
That's interesting.
It's 169 feet, 20 guests, 10 cabins, 12 crew, and you can get that for $4,495,000. So I mean, that's a completely lower echelon prop, Jedi Bugs. So
that's
something
a
to think about.
day 2 yacht, Dave.
maybe even a day. Well, yeah, you're right. Beauport, so that would be B. So that's a day
Yeah.
tour. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's all out there, but Jedi Bugs.
Solid yacht research. I'm really impressed.
That's what I held. That's why I was late today. I was doing yacht research
Yeah.
to stick it to Jedi Bugs. Remix at Remix 2112 says, awesome episode. After listening to the Stuff Dreams Are Made Of for a few years, I dipped my toe into Propster's Buy It Now and grabbed one storyboard each from Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi, all signed by Dennis Murrin.
Excellent.
A call sheet from Empire, like you, Ryan, and I framed and hung it next to my life-size hand and carbonite replica. Call sheet is for the day they are pushing HSFIC, Han Solo Frozen in Carbonite, down the hall in Bestman. That must be a real Star Wars fan abbreviation. The extra details on the call sheet are really cool. It's awesome having pieces of film history without breaking the bank. Thanks, Dave and Ryan 10. I
at
think
least we know which code he used.
Yeah, we rest our case, though, also, which is, yeah, I mean, that's exactly it.
Exactly.
There's stuff out there for every collector, and I think one thing that is true about, I don't know, certainly I want to hear about your collection of, your collection of call sheets, your collection of storyboards, as much as I want to hear about your collection of Batmobiles. That's my own personal thing. I love what people are interested in. So,
what is the best movie yacht, Dave?
Ooh. Well,
Titanic?
there are good. I know
the
there are
ultimate.
really good yachts in some of those was it Superman Returns, Kevin Spacey's Lex Luthor yacht, and then I feel like there's a Lex Luthor like at the very end of one of those other Superman movies or Superman versus Batman or something. Yeah, where like he gets on the boat there. Those are pretty good. There's a great yacht in what's the Nolan movie where everything's going backwards?
Inception.
No, not Inception. Not Inception.
Interstellar.
Nope. Everything's going backwards. There's spies, though, with a T.
Tenet.
Tenet. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Becky just yelled Tenet as well. There's that gorgeous yacht that she dives off of. You know what I'm talking about?
Dunkirk. There are lots of yachts in Dunkirk.
That's true.
Those are
very achievable. Very achievable. those yachts.
Yes,
exactly.
Days 2 and 3 yachts. Yes. That's good. I like the one in Tenet. That might be the best part of that.
That's a cool yacht. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
It says the next one is from Henrik C. Jones Carr 2653. The woman you mentioned, Liz Moore, also sculpted the Stormtrooper helmet. Brian sculpted Vader and the Stormtrooper helmet, amongst other things. And then DeArctic replies, yeah, she did died during production for A Bridge Too Far. She did all the statues for Clockwork Orange and the baby from 2001.
Oh, wow.
That's
The
Liz
baby from
Moore
2001.
Sculpting credits, the Star Baby. There you go.
Very cool. Thank you for that.
Information.
I know the name. That was unfortunately about it. But I've heard crew people speak very highly of her in the Star Wars world.
And that came up in the Geno episode. Am I correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
At Chris Height 6598, cannot dive deep enough for me. Awesome. Who knew the original Darth Vader sculpt still existed? Wild. I'm shocked that Lucasfilm doesn't have the original costume. That symmetrical helmet for Star Wars Revenge of the Sith doesn't work. Somebody didn't understand what made the original look so great. Great podcast video. Thank you. Very nice. I think when it comes to Lucas, and we talked a little bit about this, especially Star Wars, but I guess Empire a little bit. There, when he did Star Wars, there was no ranch, there was no archive, and who really knew? It's funny that it's the later movies that they have the deeper sort of archive of, and that's just always been true because, people, I'm sure, both took things because it was unpoliced, but also people were given things and people were allowed to take things home. And I think, just again on that first movie, certainly, you talk to the British crew, they certainly, no one thought anything of it. So, you hear stories of people taking stuff home and giving it to their kids, which is kind of funny, but that was the case. And it is shocking when you kind of go, what do they have and what don't they have? But it all makes sense, I guess, on some level. So yeah, that jumps out to me.
I mean, we also know from talking to Gino that the Vader costume was given by Lucasfilm to the guy that was wearing it for the
to make appearances,
tour,
which is just wild. So
the appearance suit. So it's no wonder it's no wonder it's lost. It's strange that it never came back home, or if it did, it just got maybe reused and put out there as another tour suit and lost or something like that. But it's not like it was in their possession and they don't know what happened to it. They had it out on the road. So,
right.
I mean, people just didn't look at, back in that era, any film, they did not look at things the way that we look at them now as assets, and that these are going to be valued and archived, and maybe there's a collection of this in the future that goes on tour. It just wasn't that way. Certainly for an independent science fiction film that was being essentially, financed by Fox and George Lucas.
And certainly whatever kind of prop collecting community there was at the time, it was very much, as we've spoken about in the past, when we've talked about the ruby slippers and all of that kind of stuff, it was very much a costume collecting community more than a prop collecting community that valued a lot of these sort of more, sort of elaborate gowns and outfits from, some of those, great, those great movies of the time. But again, the Debbie Reynolds, who was always collecting, her daughter was in Star Wars and she wasn't collecting a lot of Star Wars. It's a sort of a funny thing. It just wasn't what people were collecting either. So wherever that fits in.
Yeah. And then Johnny Soko 2004 wrote us and said, I believe these are YouTube comments that we're getting, so these are all kind of matter of public record. I need to go back through your videos to find a discussion on proving provenance when there is none. I have a couple of concept art / production sketches that look like they are from Empire or Jedi and signed by Tom Jung. However, they have zero provenance. How do I go about trying to prove that they are real? I believe that Tom Jung is still alive, but I have no connection to him to check with him if he even wants to be contacted. Is there like a prop detective laughy face? And this is some of the big issues with this stuff, is that's why it's so important to keep these records. And if you have something and you're holding on to it for years, where you got it from and the catalog that you got it from and the letter that you got with it, and or if you bought it privately or acquired it from crew, you have to keep all that stuff because it's part of the story of where the thing came from, where the thing comes from. And art, unfortunately, is good. I mean, if it's a great painting or drawing that looks like Tom Jung did it, I mean, that's a start, because you can't just, not everybody can do one of those, but you have to look at the signature. You have to try to figure out what the history out of it, what you go into the search. I would search heritage auctions to begin with.
Yeah, I was going to say, I believe, if memory
previously
serves, there were 2 or 3 large drops of Tom Jung art that came from Tom Jung that were in various auctions. It's been too long for me to remember.
Profiles era, right? But all that stuff is now on the Heritage database.
But most of it, I think, is on the Heritage database, but I'm not sure if it's all there, but let's assume it's there. But you can find those original things. And then some of them there were definitely lots that had like 3 smaller drawings in it. And some of those things have been broken up over the years. So I would start by going backwards to see if you can find anything from those original Tom Jung drops. Now, I'm going to say something very controversial that will probably get me into some sort of trouble. There were multiple drops. There was certainly a first drop with some really nice looking art in it. In some of the later drops, there were pieces that I don't know this for a fact, but it's not that there's something, I do believe they are from Tom Jung, but they struck me as like different work. Like I wondered if he tried to like tighten them up later. And again, I'm sure I'm going to get into trouble and people screaming, but there were definitely later ones that I just would not touch, that it almost like looked like the likenesses were off. And it, like I said, I believe they were what they were, but I almost wondered if a later hand went in and tried to make them maybe better than they were, but I don't know. And there's something off about those. And I have said this for years, and now I'm saying it publicly. And like I said, bring on the people screaming. Mm-hmm. But so I do think it's something you unfortunately do need to be a little bit careful about, even if it was done by the artist himself, which I suspect it maybe was. Then they are different than what they were, and I'm not a fan of that. So hopefully, Johnny Sacco, I don't know. Again, you're welcome to send us a picture of yours.
Yeah,
I gave you a thought if you want. I'm not a prop detective. That sounds like the worst television show ever, but I'm sure someone would make that. So yeah.
Does he travel around on a yacht?
just town to town on his yacht, solving prop mysteries. Or like The Fugitive, he's on the run, goes into a town, takes a job, and then helps them unravel their prop, whatever.
Their prop mystery, yeah.
I always actually had this idea a million years ago, and again, it's not exactly prop detective, but it's not prop detective. It was the notion, and this was the gist of it was going to start with what seemed like a kidnapping, and there was like a rich, like software person and like whatever, and there's a guy sort of facilitating like a private investigator, but a younger, hipper private investigator, but trying to sort of help with the kidnapping and the ransom, and it goes wrong, whatever, and then they sort of save the baby. And when they go to save the baby, you realize that wrapped in the blanket, it's not a baby. It's like a copy of Action Comics #1, and that's what had been sort of kidnapped and ransomed. And it was basically this idea that these millionaires and billionaires are buying high end collectibles and watches and all of that kind of stuff, and this is a person who helps them sort of unravel their issues. So I guess maybe it was prop detective, but anyway, that is available if anyone is interested.
That guy's on a yacht for sure.
So if people are interested in that show, there'd definitely be yacht scenes if nothing else. So let me know. This next one is the tiniest writing ever.
It's very long.
This is from Thomas Essen. Presuming you'd like to hear auction wins, I achieved my first Propster Day 1 win with the Lot 422, the Troy clapperboard. Granted, I won unopposed. Well, okay, that's still good. And he says maybe I should have waited and gambled on an offer opportunity, but obviously those can go wrong. But I'm happy in any case. Pretty much as soon as I saw the listing, though, I thought I recognized it. Sure enough, it's a match to one of my favorite production stills, very cool, which he sent. For 10 years, I'd held back on clapperboards, except the ones from the series Vera, which I don't know what that is, that I gifted to my mom, but I often speculated that where the one... I'm just going through this. And then he wants Troy weapons designed by Simon Brindle. What are we getting to a question here, or is this just comments? Especially for Achilles' sword, blah, 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 blah. Finally, apologize to Ryan for valuing a piece of acrylic and wood over a meet and greet. I guess he did not bid on you, but congrats on the charity selling, which is very nice. I actually may look into something like that for the stunt Arya. Oh, he's the one that won the oyster knife that we had talked about. Yes. Yep. And I tend to give it to Marin Trent. I got hold of his representative, and would you believe it? He very politely turned down the offer. He did suggest that I might consider a charity if I wish to part with it, kindly offering to write a letter accompanying it in that event. And it occurred to me that an organization like the NSPCC would be oddly perfect, seeing as cruelty to children was basically Marin Trent's whole deal. Again, no pressure, but if you can help. Do you want, I guess maybe hook them up with Prop Store, because that's who was doing the auction?
I mean, that's
maybe?
Go to Prop Store and offer it up for the NSPCC. That's what I would do.
That was some tiny writing there, Bart.
They do that every. They would do that. It wasn't tiny on my computer. I don't know.
Oh, mine is very tiny.
The way the image came through.
Sorry,
but that's great. I mean, the Troy clapperboard is a great win. Both great wins, and that's another real human that actually won something in the Game of Thrones auction. So there you go.
I do, just to back up to talk about clapperboards, it is something that I think originally when I first maybe bought my first clapperboard, I never thought about specifically trying to screen match them. I will also say at the time, I never thought about the idea that somebody would be faking a clapperboard, which obviously unfortunately has happened since then. So the notion of... Yeah, so the notion of being able to find production stills with your clapperboard, whether it's specifically obviously incredible, if it's obviously the scene that it is on the clapperboard is incredible, although that's not always the case, but certainly looking for things like maybe some of the permanent writing or the writing on tape or things of that actually give you if you will, a photo match of your clapperboard is something that I think is very important. So wherever that fits into your collecting world, it's another aspect of being sure of what you have and again, doing your research. So
they're hard to match, the clapperboards, because obviously they're not in the finished film, so you're really relying on behind the scenes material, and it just depends on what movie it is, whether if it's an older movie, is that stuff even out there? More relying on stills probably behind the scenes. I see more clapperboards being matched to stills versus something.
Yes, very much to stills.
Action. My Blade Runner, I think, is the only one that I have is matched to live action because of the Dangerous Days documentary. You actually see it in motion in the documentary being used, which is very neat.
Yeah, I
Then
think most of mine are still matches. I mean, again, rightly or wrongly, that's where they kind of ended up. But you know, again, a match is a match. So yeah,
match is a match. Bill Shaver writes us, "Hey guys, here's some hard ones to find. Let me know what you think. What happened to all the portraits that hung on the wall of Colonel Potter's office on MASH? The best I could find is that the group portrait of the main cast that Potter painted toward the end of season 10 was auctioned by Heritage in November 22. But what happened to the rest? I can't seem to log into Heritage Auctions websites to see how much the group painting was sold for. Can you find out? Wouldn't it be interesting to see what happened to all those paintings?" For sure, it would be interesting to find out all those paintings. I mean, MASH was a little before me, but I remember my parents and grandparents watching it. I remember that movie, that the music coming on very specifically, because that was always the end of.
Was that bedtime? Was that bedtime for you?
Like, yeah, it was like the
mask.
Yeah, it was like
time for bed.
It was the end of like kid time. Certainly, like it was no more time for the kids to be watching television. That very kind of mournful theme song. But yeah, I mean, basically with Heritage, if you have to log in to see realized prices, but you just set up an account, set up your email address, set up an account,
that shouldn't be that hard.
Price realized.
You know, obviously the ones of the characters from the show probably have value, and probably some of the ones that are, forgive me, I haven't looked at an episode of MASH in a while, but any of the ones that would be, I guess, what I would call landscape or whatnot, probably sitting in some prop house somewhere, you know what I mean? And like are just like popping up in the background of other shows, which is something that does happen with paintings a lot, where you'll see like somebody will like put up a screen grab from a sitcom and go, that's a painting that's in this movie. And again, not necessarily key props, but certainly, you know, reused stock, if you will. It would be funny.
That story of, there was like a painting that was in Stuart Little, at that Little movie from about 20 years ago.
I vaguely remember this, right?
That somebody recognized in the theater as a missing, like,
an actual missing real painting, and they kind of tracked it down. Yeah,
it got mixed into set deck somewhere, and they found it, and there you go. That's a screen match for you.
It'd be cool if the Colonel Potter paintings were in Harry Potter, but anyway. Matthew Randall. Oh, sorry.
It's like,
go ahead.
Ghostly old wizards that are just chatting to you in the halls of Hogwarts. I like that.
Like idea. Just Hawkeye talking, the ghost of Hawkeye talking to you. Matthew Randall, guys, fantastic job with Bill Hunt. Yes, I really enjoyed our Bill Hunt shows. I'd been a reader of his back in the 90s when DVDs first appeared, but had abandoned physical media for the last several years. All that changed now, and I bought a dedicated 4K player. I didn't think my PS5 would be good enough. With about 20 4K movies after listening to the show, we're sorry, Matthew, about that. The real exciting news is that I was able to screen match my Big Lebowski robe that I won last year from Prop Store thanks to the 4K. That's fantastic. It's the first shot we see of the dude in the grocery store in the opening sequence. I tried before, but was only able to do this with 4K. I thought it was from a sequence, but I got an actual match from the 4K disc. There are some features on the robe's pockets that match. I thought that story might be cool to share. It is. Thanks as always for the content, and I always love communicating with you guys. Yeah, 100%. That is the beauty of 4K, and I think more and more matches coming from that. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, great letter, Matthew. And perfect sequence to match it to, because it's the introduction of the character. I mean, what an iconic introduction. Really, you couldn't kind of ask for a better scene to match it to. So well done. Give us more original comic art chat. Greetings from Scotland. This is from Colin Brown. I really enjoy the podcast, but I have to admit the bits I enjoy the most are when you talk about original comic art. I'm sure I surely can't be the first to suggest, if time permitted, that you do a companion podcast where Dave could just tutor fledgling buyer Ryan in the secrets of buying and selling. If it couldn't be a separate podcast, maybe devote an occasional episode of stuff to the subject. For sure. I mean, this is something that I'm very interested in discussing. I would like to do more of it. I know people have really enjoyed it. I think we've just had a lot of prop topics to go through, and there hasn't been a particularly seismic sort of moment reason thing to discuss. But there is some stuff cooking in the offing. There's some stuff coming up that maybe will trigger another one of these. I know Felix has been talking of the Felix Liu Comic Art Podcast, has been trying to. We should come back around to the subject, but I'm going to be back on there talking about recent acquisitions, my list, what's going on. I feel like I don't know. There's always interesting stuff going on in the comic art world. That's the nice thing about it, because there's just more activity, there's more material out there because of the nature of comic books, and there's what?
Yeah, there's so many pages. I mean,
32 pieces of original art for every book ever published.
So many pages, exactly. But although I will say, in an interesting way, not that new things aren't always showing up in comic art, but in a funny way, more so in prop world, I feel like some of these big prices on items are pulling things out. There's always new stuff in comic art, but maybe less of a direct sort of, oh, this sold, now here are these things that have been missing for years. It happens. Mm-hmm. It's a constant evolution of things coming to market. But I think I am a little bit more in the prop world, constantly sort of being like my head blown back a little bit by, oh my God, that has shown up, than in comic art, where there are things that have been missing that are just still missing all these years later, and maybe were destroyed or we don't know. But anyway, just sort of an interesting point wherever that fits in.
Maybe
but more comic art, Colin Brown. We will indeed. David Pisani writes, hi, Dave and Ryan. Some props in my collection. The patch from the Norway Empire parkas. The parkas themselves are now very pricey, but you can get the patches for a few hundred. Also, the original stickers from Star Wars, the production used. Cool items from my favorite movies that are affordable. That is a little response to the propas episode. And I'll just simply say amen, David. That is absolutely right.
Excellent.
And especially on Star Wars, of the 3 movies, there was a lot of bespoke stuff, be it crew shirts, patches, cards, invites to various screenings, crew parties, whatnot. That is the Star Wars trilogy, a movie rich in smaller, affordable props in a great way. And Chris Fawcett, who I know a bit. Chris, hi, Chris.
Hello,
also
Chris.
on Propas writes, great idea for a show, but I think you guys only covered half of the affordable props market. Sure, fair enough. Lesser items from big properties. Okay, this is his theory. But the other half of affordable props is high-end items from lesser properties, which we definitely did not discuss, and that makes sense to me. Case in point, I recently picked up this mind wipe device from the Joss Whedon show Dollhouse. Like his more popular Firefly, it's a great sci-fi concept and ended too early. Okay, fair enough. This is a full hero prop, one of probably only 2 made from the 2-part finale to season 2. The detailing is gorgeous. It was advertised as electronics not working, but when I got it, I opened it up. All it needed was batteries. The result is an amazing, full-functioning hero prop from a show I really enjoy, all for $400. And that's incredible. Absolutely true, Chris. There is nothing better than when there is a movie or a show that nobody else likes. And I'm exaggerating when I say nobody else likes, but I just mean something that isn't quite as sexy or popular or whatever, or dare I say, the people are thinking is a good investment opportunity. And when you can find those shows and go, I really like this, and I'm glad nobody else cares, and you pick up a hero prop like that for $400, God, congratulations. So you're absolutely right about that. And I think there's a lot of those things. I think we all have movies that we think of as no one else really cares, and those are wonderful. What's a movie you love that you think no one else cares about, Ryan? That maybe you'd want something from because you like it that much.
Yeah, that's a good.
I'll go while you're mulling. Go. A movie I really enjoy, and I know it's not great, but I watch it all the time and kind of keep it on in the background when I'm especially when I'm working, because I know it for whatever reason backwards and forwards. I love the Tommy Lee Jones movie Volcano, and I don't exactly know. I'm not sure what prop I would want from it,
funny.
But I just really enjoy that movie, and I would take something that I recognize from that movie that I have to assume would not be particularly backbreaking price-wise, but like I said, that's a movie I kind of work to, and I just kind of like it. So I realize no one really cares, but
this is. I mean, it's not live action. It's funny. I was just watching it the other day because my daughter was suddenly interested in it, and my little one came to me and she's like, "Daddy, do you know the movie Black Cauldron?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I guess she's been listening to the stories on the Disney stories on the Spotify app, and she found her way to Black Cauldron. So she started just rattling off all the characters, and Henwen, the pig that can see visions, and there's Elenwe, the maidservant and Fluter Flan, the guy with the harp and all that. And it's like, this is amazing. I loved that movie as a kid, and actually that was one of my first eBay hunts. Was very famously, The Black Cauldron did not do well for Disney, and I think it was seen as incredibly dark and disturbing, and it wasn't a musical. And what are you doing to our children? And it's the mid '80s. Is this what the Reagan era has brought us? There was a lot of backlash against Disney. So for a long time, Disney always really curated their home video situation, and forever it did not come out. But apparently, it did fine overseas. So there were these PAL Black Cauldron tapes everywhere. They just weren't available in the US. So when eBay came online, suddenly there were all these bootlegged people that
burned DVDs of the
PALs into NTSC, so that it was watchable here. There were two formats basically. PAL was the overseas format, NTSC was the format here. So if you had a PAL VHS tape, you could not watch it. Now this is region encoding and whatever in DVDs. Anyway, so I love The Black Cauldron. I don't think many people really care about it. It's not a prop movie. I love those Lloyd Alexander books.
I'll tell you something interesting.
I would love an animation cell from Black Cauldron.
I believe, and I'm not 1,000%, I think I'm right about this. I believe The Black Cauldron is an early Tim Burton job when he is an animator at Disney.
Oh,
and
nice.
I therefore believe, and they're not cheap, but they're also not as expensive as one would imagine a Tim Burton drawing is, because again, they're characters that people don't care about. But I believe there are various concept animation concept drawings by Tim Burton of some of those characters that I believe are out there. So that is what has, funny way, that has become the movie's claim to fame. I think people have forgotten about it did bad, it did good, it was too dark and all of that kind of stuff. But now, all these years later, it's the Tim Burton connection. So that might be something you can look into.
Cool.
If you just do a search of that.
I will do that. I would love that Tim Burton connection. It's worthwhile now. By the way, it's on Disney Plus, and it's in a very nice restoration. So somebody's taken care of it since. So it's worth a visit. It's a fun. Nice. It's like 80 minutes long. It's a fun watch. Really good book that it's based on too.
Oh, well, I didn't realize. I'm not sure I even realized it was.
Yeah, the Prydain Chronicles. It was by Lloyd Alexander. I think The Black Cauldron is one of the books, but I think the first book is the Book of Three. It's from the '60s, and it has a bit of Tolkien pastiche in it, but it's written for a bit of a younger audience, so it has more of that kind of. It feels more like The Hobbit than like Lord of the Rings in a good way, but just a really fun kind of young adult, I would say, storybook.
Did you like as a kid? Did Sword in the Stone mean anything to you, or not so much?
Yeah,
okay.
I watched it, but Black Cauldron. It's actually funny. There was a Sierra. Do you remember Sierra, the video game company?
Yes.
They did all the quests,
early graphic games, EverQuest and whatnot.
Yeah, more King's Quest.
Oh, King's Quest. Okay.
Yeah, Space Quest, Hero Quest, all that. But they made a Black Cauldron game that was tied in with the movie. I think thinking that was going to do it. And I played the game, and that I guess that was the source of my. I saw it in the theater, but the game was the source of my obsession.
I wonder if that game, because probably as the millions of lines of code, it's probably like this now, in comparison. I wonder if they have that on Steam that you could actually go in and play.
Probably,
yeah, because I know they have the Zorks and whatever, and you can kind of go in and play those things. Zork, it's so funny. We should try and wrap this up, so we'll maybe speed through a couple of these.
Yeah.
Evan Atherton wrote in. He followed me over here from an appearance on the Felix Lou Show. Always been intrigued in original movie props, dabbled in replicas. He loved Blade Runner 2049, and he grabbed the slide reader, which he won. It was the with the woman with the tree. That image, that slide image. That's a really great pickup. He gave a picture, lot 108. So another early item. And really, really gorgeous. And he just wanted to say he couldn't be happier. He's 99% sure at photo matches, so he's going to dig in on that one. Just wanted to say thanks and congratulations. Oh, and he included his Comic Art Fans Gallery. He's got a lot of Batman stuff. And I did click on that, Evan, and it was very cool stuff. And I think I liked or left a comment on something. But anyway, congratulations.
That's really great, Evan. Thank you for writing us and proving that we do convert.
And by the way,
looky-loos into buyers from time to time.
Another Josh J. Hulko, who said, "Hey guys, love the channel. He went all in and won the Sapper Morton Foot Locker. Massive Blade Runner fan, super happy with the win. If we want to talk to him about his first bidder winner experience on the pod, we'll maybe perhaps take you up on that, Josh. But either way, congratulations on that. Another really great piece, the Foot Locker. Really wonderful piece.
Yeah, great. Yeah, great. I'm really, because that auction felt kind of that it went for not the pros, but it bent toward the hardcores only. So it's nice to see that people won nice pieces that were kind of first timers
there were
coming into the
definitely
market.
obviously some big ticket items, but again, I think some if you were smart and you picked right, you could definitely find some stuff.
You do well.
And I guess we'll end on this one, which I guess will be more of an open invitation. We got a comment or something from Lindsay Muir, M-U-I-R, who I can only assume I'm thinking is the wife, or perhaps I'm thinking the wife, but could be the daughter of Brian Muir, who was one of the sculptors that we talked about on the show. And she thinks we got a lot of
Star Wars sculptors.
Yeah. Yes, and she thinks we got a lot of things wrong, or Gino got a lot of things wrong about the Stormtroopers. Really. Yeah, really mostly Gino, not us, on the Stormtroopers and first part of the Vader. And I will simply say I'm not quite sure if that's true or not, but I will simply say an open invite if you'd like to come on the show and talk about it. If Brian would like to come on the show, an open invite. I don't particularly remember talking particularly a lot about the sculpting and more about, but I don't know, maybe something obviously bothering them. So I think we were talking. Yeah. So I will simply say, open invite. Please email us, and we would love to have you and Brian on to talk about both his book, which I own and is wonderful. I think there's a couple of books, but I have one of the Star Wars books, a very good picture book, among other things. And we would be thrilled to have you on. So not looking. That's the easiest way of putting it. If someone's got an issue, come on aboard. So come on aboard and talk to us.
And we can even talk about yachts a little bit too, if you want to do that.
Definitely, if you have yacht knowledge, we are very interested, and we're looking for first-time yacht buyers. If you're out there and you're thinking about if you've been collecting replica yachts, and now you're thinking of getting your first yacht, we're very interested. And there's our mailbag. That was a fun batch. Yeah, tight hour 20. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
Really good. This was kind of collecting a bunch of things that have been written to us over the past months. It's hard to answer every one of these. Dave and I are crazy trying to keep our heads above water with our normal lives and professions. And Bart does a really great job of managing the multiple feeds by which comments and questions come into us. We do try to answer pressing things as they come up. But this sort of running commentary, there's a great way to catch everything in the sifter and
catch up with everybody.
Put it all out there. So thanks. Keep writing. We'll do another one, I'm sure, in the next season or two, as we continue.
Yes, the people, human beings are actually looking at both your comments and your letters. So keep them coming. Please, if you're not following us on social media at Props Podcast, please subscribe, to our podcast and give it 5 stars, and the same with our YouTube channel. It all kind of helps the algorithm. And feel free to post about it in your various groups and stuff, because it gets more people and it helps with the algorithm. So algorithm.
Dave, would your collection, do you think, be safer than it is currently right now in your flood and fire prone condo on a yacht?
At sea, if I just went port to port with the collection? That's very interesting.
Think? Like invite people out to see
idea.
The collection.
I think if it was
it's an
yacht
international water, you don't pay any tax
the coastline.
On it.
Like I just hug the coastline. I don't want to go.
Okay, so you could get in if you needed to.
Yeah.
Any port in a storm.
I don't mind. I don't get crazy seasick, but I don't think I want to live. I think I guess maybe it's different on a yacht, but you would have to pay me to go on a cruise. I think they are just a giant floating mass of germs and flu
it's just a sailing diarrhea hotel.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know anyone that's ever gone on a cruise that has not gotten diarrhea and severe diarrhea. Yeah, so
yeah, good yacht name, by the way.
Severe diarrhea.
Just
Just
severe diarrhea.
COVID-20. That's my yacht name, COVID-20.
That's how many feet long it is.
Yep, the
Or
old
the crew?
COVID-20. Yeah,
The total crew.
it has COVID-20 cabins. Yeah. So yeah.
Very good.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll talk
See
to you
you next
soon.
week.
And Ryan, I will see you in a couple of days.
Yeah,
Bye-bye.
exciting.